Good morning. Welcome to This Simple Space. We're well into January now, so I hope that you guys have had a good month. You know, January is always such a coupling of an exciting new year and new ambition and energy. And then about now, wow, the mendacity of trying to do the new things over and over and over to become better suited to that and to develop a new habit really gets kind of tight, doesn't it? It gets a little wearing. So I want to encourage you, this has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about today, but in my heart, I just want to encourage you guys. If I was sitting with you at coffee this morning, I would just say, hey, where are you at today? How are you doing with your goals? How are you doing with the things that you think you want to begin to change and grow in your life? I would encourage you to don't quit. Don't quit. Maybe you've had a bad day. Maybe you've blown it. It's okay. Part of growing is failing, and maybe you're trying to lose some weight, and maybe yesterday you had 5 candy bars and 3 Cokes. Okay, today's a new day. Go back to your goals that you've written down. Start with that again. Start again with the thought of I have a whole year. I have an infinite amount of time to complete this transformation in my life. And don't quit. We quit when we decide, well, we failed, so I might as well not take another step. So take some more steps today, okay? So today we're going to do a continuation of what we've been unpacking together as far as life equity. You know, that your value is a commodity that you through leadership can transfer into your communities and into those that you are able to impact through your design. Today I want to talk about the right-hand side of the equation. Remember, the equation was creation equals capacity. It doesn't mean that creation equals it. It means that when you take the components of this side of the equation, they will balance out. Equal means balance. You know, in a scientific equation, it's equal sign means it's a balanced equation, okay? So creation, when we enlarge and we stretch, the other side of that is capacity. And capacity is something that I feel like I say this all the time. God's put his finger on a lot of things. I think he's got all 5 fingers on my life right now. Capacity is really something that 3 or 4 years ago, I began to read a book by John Maxwell, and I finished it, but it's on my top 10, and it's called No Limits, and it's blow the lid off your capacity. And wow, for a person who's very structured and who kind of struggles a little bit with thinking outside the box or dreaming bigger, this was huge for me. So for those of you who struggle with this, I would encourage you to get that book, John Maxwell, No Limits. And I think it was published maybe 4 years ago. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly, but it's still in publication. And one of the quotes out of that book was by Jim Rohn. You can't achieve beyond the level of a development. You don't achieve goals, you grow into them. So when you're creating and you're stretching, there's a level there that you're trying to get to, but you don't achieve those goals, you grow into them, okay? And even maybe for me, a better word than achieve is transform. I feel like for some of us, maybe achieve is too strong of a word and it scares you off a little bit. Achieving is a great word. It doesn't mean immediate. Achieving has infinity attached to it as well, okay? So again, as we talk about the accumulated value of your life, the skills and experiences of your life are going to be able to equip you for the life that you dream of, okay? So today, again, Isaiah 54:2, in that passage of scripture, enlarge the place of your tent, let them stretch forth the curtains of your habitation, spare not, lengthen your cords, and strengthen your stakes, okay? So these are the 2 words that we're going to talk about on the right side of this equation regarding capacity. I love the scripture because it gives me a picture, all right? It gives me a picture of a house. It gives me a picture. It says, throw back the curtains of your habitation and enlarge and stretch forth your curtains. I love that because what it's saying is, you're in a season of life now. It's time to throw it back. We're going to enlarge this part of your design that you can welcome more people. You can welcome what God has for you in your life. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. So when we're talking about lengthening cords and strengthening stakes, that's awesome, isn't it? Because you cannot throw back curtains and keep them there. You cannot stretch your habitation without first making sure that you have the capacity for that to happen. So if you're going to lengthen your cord, if you're going to make your habitation and your design larger, you're going to have to strengthen the foundation and the stake as well, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So capacity then is simply making room for the expanded dream. we talked about that creating is the process of improving and refining and exploring your design, right? Well, then capacity is making room for what you've discovered in your dream, okay? Capacity is required to carry out or export the product of your creation. To impact with our design, there must be space. There must be space. There must be capacity. This could be time, it could be resources, it could be networking connections, it could be an education in an area. This is what capacity is tangible. Capacity you can touch. For those of you that are doers, capacity is something you can do. For those of you that are only dreamers, capacity must become a reality in your life or your dream will never be fulfilled, okay? As we find a new piece of refinement in our dreaming stage and we begin to see the potential for the opportunity to be birthed in that arena of life, we may discover that there's going to be some preparation necessary to fully and successfully export that. I love the word export because, again, in the business world, we talk about equity, we talk about a commodity. As an entrepreneur, we create a product as he would dream. Let's think about the iPhone, for example. That was a dream in the mind of the creator at the beginning, but as he refined that and developed that and then began to do prototypes, as he began to have a hard thing in his hand, all of a sudden there was probably some things he had to expand, right? Steve Jobs had to expand some things to be able to export that product. Now we all have iPhones or an Android or some form of that creation that was in his mind, right? We now all have a piece of that in our hand and it greatly impacts us. It's an incredible invention in our century, right? But it had to be exported. For it to be exported, there had to be some things that he changed and better equipped for to be able to manufacture that, right? So many times when we recognize our limited capacity coming up inside of us, when we look at our limited beliefs, from those limited beliefs, that's usually where we can begin to understand where we need to add or strengthen skills in our life, okay? So what would a limited belief? So let's back up. Let's say I'm asking you across from coffee right now, what is God dreaming in your heart? What is a dream that he's asking you to begin to push out that you've had within? And maybe you tell me something that's pretty small, really, but even in the infancy stage of that, it terrifies you. And then you say things like, yeah, but see, I don't have time to do that. Or yeah, but I could never do that. I don't have the money for that. Well, yeah, but I don't know anybody. I don't know the next stage. Or, well, everybody else there's lots of people doing that. How many of those things that I just say can you step into? Have you heard yourself say that? That's a limiting belief. That's one of those paradigms that will keep you from stretching your imagination. And therefore, the reason you're not stepping into capacity is you think that you don't have resource and time and education and connections. All right, everything that I just said becomes something that you then can step into. I can step into and say, well, this is something I need to lengthen and this is something I need to strengthen in my life. These are things when I profess and speak of a limited belief, that is the picture of what I need to change in my life. So lengthen simply means like if I'm going to add a new length of rope, it's a new skill that aligns with my design. This is so key. I know people that run all over the place doing new things. They become a master of this, an expert that. They add this degree, they add that degree, nothing related, everything completely different. Nothing wrong with learning, but if you don't begin to focus on what your learning is for, there's going to be an alignment there. It's not going to be all over the place. I'm a doctor one minute, I'm a chef the next, I'm a master gardener the next, I'm an engineer the next. Okay, none of those things in the process of being what those are related. Okay, they don't align together. Does that make sense? You might have interest in all of those things, but there's going to be one of those things that really is something that's going to really add impact through your design. This is not adding a skill for the sake of accumulating, but this is rather adding a skill for the sake of impact, okay? So I just want to give you a real quick example. I've been involved in small business since I was 17 years old. One of my first jobs was in a small business in my hometown. So I got to see something I'd never seen before. You know, I'm 17, 18 years old, and for one, I've never really had a job outside of babysitting, but for two, I didn't really know about small businesses. I didn't even know how they were run. So from that point on, I started out learning that, and then I worked with my family in a small business that they owned for a couple, 3 decades. And then I had businesses, and I'm still currently engaged in a small business. So even though all 4 of those businesses were not related, okay? A video store, a lumber yard, a vending company, and a travel agency are not related, right? But they all have alignment through my design. Every single one of those required me to learn how to have processes, how to develop structure, how to add value, and how to work with people. It's not about me. It's not about me going in and clocking in and out. It's about me stepping into a space with the client and hearing what they need and providing that. It's people over projects when you own a small business. So I hope that helps you to see that I did add skills, and I was involved in businesses that were not related, but I wasn't just doing that to accumulate it because it was cool. It all matched up, and it's allowing me to have impact now, even in the space that I am in now, okay? So what does strengthening mean? Strengthen then in that same space of capacity would be that we all have strengths that are foundational to us uniquely, right? You know that there's things that you're good at. You just know it, okay? You might be in a false humility of, oh, I'm not good at anything. I'm gonna call BS on that, okay? You know what you're good at. Step into that and embrace it. That is key to this, because every one of us, as we're dreaming and stretching and adding skills, we've got to all have a foundation. We've got to have something that when we do fail, we're at least failing to the level of our foundation, right? We're not falling into quicksand, all right? Matthew talks about the man who built on the sand and the man who built on the rock. The same storms of life came, the same exact storms. The house on the rock, on the foundation, even though it was in the storm, didn't get destroyed. The house on the sand, wiped out, had to start all over again. So my point is, find and recognize those things today that you are good at, that you have strengths in. And that's really key. That's way too much for me to get into right now, but there are ways for you to understand what you're good at, what your skills are, okay? Begin to sharpen those skills. And as you do, that's going to provide you confidence to balance out this new length of rope that you're adding. Does that make sense? Foundations are imperative. We all have them, and we have to be laser focused on sharpening those, okay? So as we close today, I hope that this helps you to get a picture of this side of the equation, all right? As you're dreaming, as you're over here in that dream stage of creation and enlarging, now there's going to be some things you can prepare for and set capacity for so that you have a place to set the dream into when it's time, okay? In other words, if you're dreaming but you're not doing anything in the capacity, you're never going to be able to actually have a tangible opportunity, and you're going to become frustrated, because frustration is the gap between expectation of what that dream looks like and the reality that you're in, because you're not doing anything with it. All right, for those of you that are good dreamers, for those of you that learn and accumulate skills but you never do anything with them, now is the time for you to take those skills, to sharpen them and do something with them, okay? Remember, you can't reach beyond the level of development. So if you're going to have to stretch, you're going to have to develop some capacity in that area. You don't achieve your goals, you grow into them. So what limiting beliefs are disqualifying you in what you're dreaming towards? Allow those to be the focal points right now, maybe what God's putting his finger on. And where do you need to develop in order to grow out of those disqualifiers? All right, we're going to come back next week and actually dive into this a little bit more in a little bit more detail. For those of you who are real detail oriented, come back next week. Y'all have a great week. Subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and share. Leave comments. This is a community to inspire, empower, and encourage each other, but only if we're connecting. All right, have a great week. God bless you.